Netflix launched the new show Quarterback, very anticipated, and we all know Mahomes is a star, Mariota's a question mark, but hey, do we love Kirk more than ever? Let's get into it. Well, we've been taking a little time away this summer, obviously spending some time on the lake. The Vikings offseason has been kind of slow, not some massive signings, just some cuts, but hey, Quarterback is here. It's July. We've given everyone a chance to watch it. I hope everybody's been able to see it that's watching this, so we don't spoil anything, but obviously everyone knows how the season went. But we got to learn some new things about Kirk, some stuff about Mahomes, obviously, and Mariota, but we're going to focus a lot on Kirk here. We've got Josh with us, as always, on the far side over this way. We've got Alex right next to him, as always, and we've got a special guest today, guy who basically runs the Vikings team. I think he works directly for the Vikings, Austin, on this side over here. How's it going, Austin? You making all the decisions after you cut Cook?
Something like that. Just one correction. I work for the Vikings owners on the real estate side. It's a company called MB Ventures. So don't actually work for the football team, but I'm out here in Eagan right now right across the field from the Performance Center in our commercial office building. So,
But they listen to you when you give them suggestions on how to run the team.
Of course. No, I'm more focused on the real estate side, but it's kind of cool just being out here on campus. We got training camp kicking off here Saturday. Some of the players just came in this weekend, so it's about to get pretty lively down here in Eagan.
That is true. We're going to definitely be getting into some training camp talk as well, obviously talking about JJ and Kirk coming up here towards the end of the podcast. Well, let's just jump right into it. Let's start out. We're going to talk about quarterback. Let's talk about first of all, actually, we got to start out with saying Austin and I were actually in quarterback. We were in the background. We'll throw a screenshot up. I'm throwing it up right now. There it is. You can see it. That is Austin and I, the blurry images in the background of Kirk looking at us. I think he's pointing at us, talking to us, or he was talking to his wife and his kid. I can't remember what it was, but one way or another, we were in there, right? So
he was coming out to take you both into the locker room with him, right? But then he couldn't find you, so he took his son instead.
Unfortunately, his son ended up in the locker room.
You guys actually weren't the only ones that made an appearance in quarterbacks. If you zoom in very, very far in one of the shots during Mahomes' induction into the Texas Tech Ring of Honor, you can very, very faintly find me in the stands.
You were there.
Yeah.
You were at the Texas
Try to find
Tech
that
game?
Screenshot too.
We'll put that one up now.
Yes. Well, you better have found it, Alex. If it's not up right now, that means Alex didn't find it. So,
Or he's lying.
Or he's lying and he was never there. But that's pretty cool. I mean, that game, let's just talk about that game really quick as we're going to get into everything else. But that was, I have to mention, it's on my shirt too. That was the Colts game that Austin and I were at where they brought Kirk's son into the locker room and we were up in the stands. That game was insane. Thank you, Austin, for bringing me to that game. First of all, I have to say, I don't think any Minnesota sports game that I go to is going to top that for quite a while, unless I ended up at a championship game of sorts.
I think you guys are very lucky to have been at that game as the greatest comeback in NFL history, but I think it's going to be hard for you to top that in your lives. So you should definitely tell us what it was like in there when you were there.
What do you think of Kirk's reaction in quarterback too, Austin, I guess, after you tell us what was it like to be at the down 33-0 game?
Well, it was crazy just being at that game. I remember sitting there at halftime, just looking up at the scoreboard. We were down, 33-0 to a Colts team that was pretty bad that season, and we were supposed to be contenders. And, I think the most fun people were having were throwing paper airplanes onto the field and getting kicked out of the game. And they're like, whatever, it's a 33-0 game. And then I think you asked me at halftime, you said, you think there's any chance? I'm like, man, I feel like if it was 6 points less, maybe they would have a small chance. But then they got a couple touchdowns and got right back into the game. And then when they hit that 2-point conversion to Hawkinson, I think that's the loudest I've ever heard US Bank Stadium. So crazy game.
Were you there at the Miracle too? Minneapolis Miracle?
No, I started, I think, the year after the Miracle. So okay. I'm sure that was probably right up there with it.
Probably 1-2 punch right there, I bet. But that was crazy. And I remember you saying that if I wasn't there with the game, you might have left. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think you would ever leave a game.
I was looking up at halftime. I was like, oh, man, this is going to be a long game. But glad, obviously, we stuck around till the end. So
I knew people that left that game. I would have just been so sad if we went over to like Cowboy Jacks or something after that game and just sat there and watched the ending of it.
Oh, you never would have forgiven yourself.
I would have been sulking in it right now. But now I'm excited we got to see it. And, in quarterback, they obviously showed that game. It was crazy. And Kirk's reaction after the game on camera, like I hadn't really seen. I saw him like saying like, was it the biggest comeback in history? Like I saw him questioning that. I thought that was kind of more of a, him just making a joke, like really wanting him to clarify it. But he genuinely, I don't think he knew that that was the biggest comeback in NFL history until that moment. Do you think he knew going in? Alex, I'll ask you, like, was he going out there trying to make the biggest comeback in history, or do you think he was just playing one game, one down at a time, and happened to come back?
I think he genuinely did not know that he was a part of the greatest comeback in NFL history, because I feel like quarterbacks just get into that game flow. I think we really could see that throughout this show, that like they're so locked in that they don't realize all those other peripherals going on. Like I think he really was just trying to, get anything good out of that game, because, I don't remember if it was a week or 2 weeks before they had just had that embarrassing loss to the Cowboys. And, it just felt like, man, maybe this team is frauds. And I think they were really just trying to prove like, all right, let's get something good out of this game. And it just kept building and building. And then at the end, he's like, oh, wow, didn't even realize that happened.
Well, he said it himself in quarterback. He said, I was just going in the second half hoping to get a drive or two, get something positive, and move on to the next week. And turns out they won the game. So,
yeah, I think by the time they were making the comeback, they were just way too focused to be thinking about, anything else. Because once they realized they were almost there, I don't think they were. That was part of the shit. Like you just see how focused they are on the sideline, and like what the quarterbacks are doing on the sideline is just. They have to I lost my train of thought. Sorry, cut this.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. No, they're literally focused. They're thinking, well, next play. Like if they make a mistake, they make the wrong call on the play before, it's clear that guys, at least like Mahomes and I'd say Cousins, maybe not Mariota, but Mahomes and Cousins, like that play is over. It's in the past and they move on. And now they're on the next play, where some other quarterbacks, I'm sure, are kind of still thinking about that other play and can cause them to maybe not run the ball the next time or not make them make that next extra step, but they're still learning from their mistakes too, which is interesting. But what about, let's just talk about the difference really quick between Mahomes, Mariota, and Cousins. I mean, you got a winner, an absolute winner in Mahomes, a just ego all surrounding winning. And then you got less of an ego around Kirk Cousins, and also a proven winner, but not in the playoffs. And then you got Mariota, an unproven, but still working really hard. And they all have family lives. This was an interesting three to pick. I mean, what'd you guys think of these? Is there any that jumped out to you? That, I don't know, anything about the fact that they picked these three?
I think they picked three very different quarterbacks, like you said. I mean, like they probably knew when they were picking Patrick Mahomes that they were going to go deep into the playoffs and probably the Super Bowl. I don't know what they were thinking when they picked Mariota. That was a weird choice. And then Kirk, like he had a really good season. I mean, it's not his fault that the defense can't stop the other teams from scoring. So, which was weird too, because they showed that in the in quarterback too, the NFL honors like dinner or whatever, and him and KOC weren't invited at first. It's just weird because he had such a good season, but they had to pay for the shortcomings of the defense. But
yeah, it was, I think, just a great way to show like how different this league can be. Like you said, you have Mahomes, a proven winner, the face of the league. You know what you're going to get from him, and it's cool to see what it takes to be at that elite level. All that extra training he was doing away from the team. I mean, that's what it takes to be the best in this league. And then you got Kirk, a guy who's very underrated, a guy who has a lot to prove still, even though he's at the end of his career. A lot of haters with him. And then you have Mariota, a bubble guy. He's lost a few starting jobs. Can he turn this poor Falcons team around? I think it's just the balance of everything. You really got to see all layers of the NFL, and I thought they did a great job selecting the quarterbacks, and I'm really excited to see who they pick for next year.
And I wonder, sorry, I will give Austin a chance here. Sorry for cutting you off, but I wonder too, like how much went into picking them too, because I know the Jets are going to be on, Hard Knocks and stuff. And like, they don't want to be, I don't know how much of a choice they have, but for this series, the quarterback, my dog is having a nightmare right now. If you hear that, sorry.
No, you're good. And maybe when I send this over to you, Austin, and a question kind of bounce off what Josh has said, who do you you can add anything you want to that, but also who do you think that they might go with next year for their,
so is there a confirmed second season for quarterback?
I believe so.
Is there?
Thought I saw.
I'm pretty sure there is.
I was just excited that Netflix finally put something, bingeable on.
Assuming there is a second season, I mean, I would go with Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Geno Smith. Personally.
Yeah, there were definitely quarterbacks you were wondering why they were left out, because there are a lot of good quarterbacks and interesting quarterbacks to follow in the league now.
I think they just wanted, to your guys' points, show the three different kind of career trajectories, because there's a lot of non-NFL fans that are going to be watching this and kind of not understanding who they are and kind of seeing the different journeys. So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was quite crazy to see the different training regimens between each one. I mean, you see Mahomes and he's got like day 1 regiment, day 2, ABC type days. And then they show Mariota running hills. And you're like, all right.
Very low energy too. I think they probably did that on purpose. Like every time they cut to the Falcons, there was just like no energy. So
yeah. And like you said, they probably did that on purpose. But, I think that training regimen has a big difference in each one of these guys. And that winning mindset. I mean, with Patrick Mahomes growing up with his dad as a professional athlete, that's got to rub off on him and put winning in his blood a little bit. And Kirk didn't have that, Kirk just was like so proud every time that his dad would tell him he's good at something. And that's how he continued. It's kind of the impression I got, but bouncing off of that, let's start with just the positive about Kirk. We're going to get into the criticisms, but what's something that when you watch this and you watch Kirk as a Vikings fan, you're like, you know what? I love that. And to me, that's kind of what I was just saying. It's really just the positive reinforcement they had from his family growing up and how he kept all his memorabilia and how proud he was that his dad was proud of him and all this stuff. I thought that was really cool. I thought that's some side of Kirk you don't get to normally think about. And usually you're just saying he can't perform on nightly games.
I think one of the reasons why Kirk is underrated is because of how humble he is. Like he's genuinely just like a humble guy, and his family too. And I don't know. I think like he doesn't have the personality to get that attention to be like, that Mahomes or whoever, Josh Allen or Joe Burrow. He's not like on social media. He's not doing all this stuff to get attention, So, and then when he does, it's just by accident, the chains, you like that, like memes and stuff like, so, and that's why it's so funny because he's a humble guy. So it doesn't really go, but.
Yeah, he's so reserved that anytime he shows any little bit of personality, it goes viral. Everyone's like, oh my God, he is human. But I think watching the show, all I could think is like, wow, Kirk is a dad who happens to be a really good quarterback. Like he's just the most normal guy I feel like you would ever meet. If you knew nothing about the NFL, I don't think you would ever pick him out as a football player. But
if honestly, I kind of a football player, what would he do, Alex?
Oh God, accountant.
He'd work at Barnes and Nobles.
Yeah, there you go. And I think getting to see that more human, personal side of Kirk throughout this, getting to see some more of his personality was really fun. That was probably my favorite part of it.
I think from a positive standpoint, from maybe a football perspective, is people never talk about his durability. I mean, the guy just hangs in the pocket. He got hit more than any other quarterback, and you never see him, knock on wood, going out for extended stretches in the season. And he's a quarterback that can hang in the pocket, and he can make every throw if you give him time and give him weapons. So I think he's, to your guys' point, an underrated quarterback. So that was one of my takeaways.
And it's true, he did get hurt and he pushed through. Like he's tough.
Yeah, he definitely was not afraid to take a hit. That was clear in the show. I mean, whether they just amped that up, there was way more hits being put on Cousins than anybody, but then Mahomes, and then even less on Mariota. Like it just kind of felt like there's an interesting way to see like an A, B, and a C of who is willing to put it all on the line. And it felt like Kirk was. I don't know.
Well, and I think sometimes he gets like a bad rap for maybe like people say, oh, he doesn't want to win. But I think you can see from the show he really wants to win that Lombardi, and he even does, what was it, the brain training videos where he's sitting in his car doing that kind of stuff. So he's putting in the work, and he definitely wants to win.
Yeah, I mean, he even built a case already in his trophy room for a Lombardi trophy. I mean, that's bold. That is, as a Minnesota sports fan, That makes me nervous. I don't know about you guys. Do you like that, or what do you think of his trophy room? Let's kind of talk about that for a minute.
I mean, I just hope he brings home a Lombardi trophy while he's on the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, I think every Vikings fan is looking for that. It's just it is a little worrying. Maybe he's you think is he jinxing it? Like you don't. I don't know. I think I think his memorabilia room's super cool, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of quarterbacks probably put a spot as kind of like a reminder to what the end goal is, but it's a little concerning.
Yeah. Better to be positive, though, I guess, in the end. I mean,
and Kirk is positive. He is a positive guy, as we saw on the show.
He is very positive. But to me, that was something that I was like, kind of taken aback by, like, oh, man, I don't know if I would have built that spot. Or even if I had built that spot, I don't know if I would have said that on camera and been like, that's where my trophy's going to go. Like, that would.
Well, I think what the actual coolest from the show is his designer, whoever made the room, said, hey, this is where the Lombardi's going to go. And Kirk was like, oh, okay.
Oh, okay. So that's how it was more. There wasn't like Kirk's plan. He said,
no, I think it was his designer saying, hey, this is where your Lombardi is going to go. So,
okay. I like that more. I mean, I like Kirk having an ego. I like Kirk being confident in a good way, but it made me nervous. But what other things did you see from Kirk that was kind of shocking to you? Not necessarily all bad things, but things that you just didn't expect. We obviously all knew how the season was going to go, that there was no spoiler there. You knew how the Bills game was going to end. You knew how the Colts game was going to end, but you'd watch them and you'd still be surprised by it. Why and what things kind of stood out to you as shocking that you did not expect from the season that you saw on the show? I'll start with you, Austin, on this one. We kind of had different.
I think one thing, I guess maybe not surprising to me, but maybe surprising to like an average fan is you kind of saw that early on. He really wasn't comfortable in the offense. He even said it himself, right? He ran that first handoff in the Eagles game and he should have checked out of it. And you could tell that as the season progressed, he got way more comfortable. So hopefully this season he's got a full couple of seasons under his belt and plays pretty well.
Yeah, I'd say one thing that kind of surprised me was how vocal of a leader he really was. I mean, you kind of look at him and see him as this like very reserved, laid back kind of personality, but I was ready to run through a brick wall for him. Like I was really surprised how well he was able to, all his little pregame speeches and that kind of stuff, just rally this team and keep them moving forward. I think that was really cool to see.
I didn't realize he got a day off every week. I didn't realize he was taking Tuesdays off all season long. So,
yeah, what do you think about that? Do you like that? Do you not like that? Is that helpful? Is it not helpful? I mean,
it seemed to be working. I mean, he was getting his rest and he was performing. So I would say if they weren't winning every game, then obviously they'd probably rethink it. But I mean, it was surprising he would like go to a bookstore. You go to Barnes and Nobles to read books. That was kind of, yeah. He's a humble guy.
You got to let that body rest and recover. So especially when you're getting old, I mean, Kirk's 34 years old, body doesn't move the same way. So I think it's important for him to take that time to really let his muscles heal.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, just out here, I've seen players that go too far and they don't perform on the field and they work too hard, where the coach is saying, hey, they just need to, take some time off and and I think Kirk knows his body and knows kind of his mindset, and he thinks a day off is good for him, and it seems to be working. So,
yeah, I mean, I think any of us could agree if we were all working 7 days a week, several hours a day, nonstop, absolute grinding with everything on the line every single week, basically hard deadlines, like that's exhausting. To do that for 19 weeks and then expect you're going to go into the playoffs and continue to do the same thing, that's a lot. So I guess even just physically, not just taking the day off, but mentally, that's kind of where I was surprised, I guess, is I didn't realize that he would take a full mental day off. I figure like the physical thing, like sure, like step away, but he's not even necessarily studying. He is doing like mental exercises at home, some self-meditation, things like that they showed on that day off too, I think, and just spending time with the family. So that was pretty cool to see from a mental health standpoint for Kirk. But it is definitely different from, Tom Brady, where like Tom Brady's like, football is life. Football is everything. you were all in or you were out, and he's nonstop, and we all see how that impacts Tom Brady's personal life, but Kirk doesn't want that to happen. But also on the day off too, a lot of times he would have his trainers or his chiropractor and his own chiropractor, his own massage therapist over. It's quite impressive how big of a role not only the trainers, but his chiropractor and massage therapist have on the season and the injuries he dealt with the rib injury that he took week 10. What do you guys think about Kirk's injuries, the trainers, and just how he dealt with that and powered through? Alex, I'll start with you on this one. What do you think of his injuries last season?
Yeah, I mean, it's something every professional athlete goes through, especially in the NFL being such a physically demanding sport, all the contact. So, I mean, you have to have great trainers and chiropractors to be able to get your body right, especially on such short amounts of time to rest and recover. You got to be doing everything you can to get as close to 100% as physically possible. So I think it's massively important.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. He got hurt before the Bills game. I guess he was hurt even before that game. I think he took a hit. It was Washington. They were playing Washington, I think. That's the game he got hurt, and then he was complaining about it like the week before in practice. But then he still just like pushed through and played the Bills game. So,
well, I think the reason he implemented that is I think he said in the show he had a teammate from Washington, a receiver, I'm forgetting the name, but had played 15 seasons and had kind of done some extra body work. And once he implemented that, he saw the results.
That's right. I forget the name too, but he was from Washington. You're right. And he was there a long time. Yeah, that was, I mean, even just that injury alone in the Bills game, ESPN, I think it was on ESPN that game, nobody was talking about his injury. They were all talking about Josh Allen's elbow injury. Everyone was talking about Josh Allen this, Josh Allen that, because Kirk is just so reserved. He wasn't out there whining to the media, talking about his injury. It wasn't all over my fantasy football or anything. Like, I didn't really realize how much of a rib injury he really had, but I mean, he was really having to protect that every single game, and the offensive line was having to protect his ribs. I mean, I can't even imagine like not being able to breathe and yet having to hike the ball, screaming and running backwards and throwing it on the next play. And he did it every time. And it was pretty impressive for sure. And I know KOC clearly in the show looked pretty impressed as well. I was impressed with KOC in the show as much as I was with Kirk. I think I was almost forgetting that he was a first-year manager, first-year coach in the series itself. But what do you guys think of Kirk Cousins and KOC's relationship together?
I mean, I think KOC is like, he's very, very calm. He's a good coach. Like I loved like every time that they would show, Kirk would call the wrong play or he would call a play that KOC wasn't expecting. And his reaction would just be like, hey man, like that's not what I called. You got to trust me, And I think they just like, they look at each other as like peers and not, like, hey, I'm the coach, just listen to what I say. But I feel like all the coaches like that now in the NFL are trusting their quarterbacks more and more. But yeah, no, just, I think KOC is, hopefully he stays with the Vikings, and I think he's really good for him. So.
Yeah, I think you can kind of see towards the end of the season, like it almost felt like they started to share a brain. Like they just felt so in sync. They knew, when they had to yell at each other, when they had to kind of take a step back. And I think having that relationship between your head coach and your quarterback is so crucial, really understanding your guys' strengths and weaknesses and, working together, not against each other, I think is so big. So I think that was something you could see all show, and you could see their relationship grow as we got later in the season.
Yeah, to your point, Cole, I was surprised that for a first-year head coach, they have a pretty good bond or chemistry already. So curious to see where it'll go this season.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. Just the fact that, you come into a season as a first-year head coach and you don't really know what to expect from all your guys, and you don't know how they're going to react when it's week 10 against the Bills with everything on the line, or how they can come back. But now he knows. Now he's seen it. Now he's seen what they do in the playoffs. Now he's seen what they can do down 33-0. He understands, and he's now putting in some more pieces that are actually his own and not just inherited. And that's what I'm excited for in the next couple of years, is as he keeps adding KOC's own pieces to the puzzle. That's going to be fun to watch. I think the Vikings have a bright future in the next couple of years with him for sure. And let's talk about the Chiefs head coach a little bit in this as well. Andy Reid, I hope KOC watches this and implements even more things. Maybe he already knew some of the things that Andy Reid was doing and some of the ways that he manages Patrick Mahomes, but hopefully some of those things he takes and implements into the Vikings training and Vikings everything. I absolutely loved how they would give the team a chance to create their own plays, name their own plays, like one day a week. They were like, it was 1 hour or whatever it was. I don't know if you guys remember. They're like, you get to create your own plays. And that's why we saw them doing the circle thing in the Super Bowl, the Pokemon Go, I think it was called, or something like that. Got to catch them all. It was named after Pokemon because the guy who was supposed to catch the ball was super into Pokemon. I mean, that's awesome. Like, that creates such great team bonding, team chemistry, and not just saying like, hey, here's the plays that we as coaches have created, learn them. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that? And what things do you think you want to see KOC doing better in the future compared to last year? I'll start with you, Alex, on this one.
Well, I think to your point, they're playing a game. This is a children's game, so you have to still have fun with it. I know the NFL is a business, but at the end of the day, you're still playing a game. So doing those little things to, like, you know, just actually have some fun, get creative, I think that's massive for a team. Like you said, team bonding, but also, like, I mean, they had good plays. They actually worked. If it wasn't for an offsides on that one touchdown play, you know. So I think it's super important for coaches to allow your players to have a little freedom, have a little fun, and, you know, get creative once in a while.
Yeah, I think he's been known as one of the best in the business just from a offense creativity standpoint, but I think it helps to have Patrick Mahomes. He's going to probably make everything a lot better, but I think the players love playing for KOC too, and I think the culture he's built has been pretty impressive.
For sure. Anything to add, Josh? Otherwise, I've got one final note on quarterback, and I'll give each of you a chance to kind of say your final take on anything that we didn't talk about quarterback that you really want to make sure we mention. But my final thing that I really took away from the show that I think is really good, that other, fans that aren't maybe deep fans in football or didn't play football in high school or just maybe don't know the game as well as others, watching it, you see the game and like, people talk about hockey and coaches do a lot, but players got to play. They can't force the player to be the player that they want exactly. They still have to play the game. Baseball, same thing. You can teach a guy how to hit all you want, but that guy's got to step up and he's got to learn how to hit. But in football, man, it was pretty clear that as a quarterback, you can go out there and you can perfectly run every play that they put out there. You can know how to do all the plays. You can memorize everything. But if you can't go out there and read the defense and know everyone else's job just as good, if not better than yours on your team and theirs, you aren't quarterbacking and you are not a professional quarterback, and you have to know everything so that you can swap that play in the middle of it. You can pivot and go, all right, I can't go here, I got to go here. And it's so much more than just running a play out of a playbook. That was really impressive to me. That's my big overall thing that I took out of the series. And I think that the producers, that's what they want me to take out of it. But what do you guys think? What was your big overall? Josh, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just think they kind of modeled it after like the Facebook Watch series there, like the what was it called?
With Tom Brady?
Yeah, Tom versus Time. And then there was like
Tom versus
it was like whatever, the Versus series. They did Steph Curry too, I think. But they just kind of modeled it after that. And I think they're trying to show like what these people's lives are like. And it's not just going to practice every day, but they have to like maintain family life and a lot of other things during the season. So I think that was kind of what they were, going for, and just trying to like humanize these people a little more. So the next time you shit on Kirk Cousins, he's going through a lot.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway would probably be, there was an interview with all the quarterbacks after the show aired that they asked who's the most underrated quarterback in the league, and Mahomes said Kirk Cousins. And I think that was kind of my biggest takeaway, is he really is the most underrated quarterback. Week in and week out, he comes out, performs, puts his body on the line, fights through adversity, and just does not get the credit or the acknowledgement he deserves. So I think this show did a really good job of really showing how elite he really is. And I think it opened a lot of fans' eyes up to, hey, maybe he's not as bad in prime time. It's just all these things I think really showed that Kirk is much better than the credit he's deserved.
Yeah, I think my main takeaway was just the grind that these guys put in. Your average fan has no idea, and then you need everything to come together, every piece of the puzzle to work together. Otherwise, it's not going to go very well. Because I think even in the Colts game, I remember if it was Rager or something ran the wrong route, Cousins throws a pick. All the fans are going to be like, "Come on, why'd you do that?" But they don't understand the X's and O's and everything that's going on. Maybe they don't understand his ribs are hurting or the receiver ran the wrong route or whatever. So that was my main takeaway.
Yeah. And not to carry it on, but what about the last play of the season? Did we learn anything new about why he threw, 4th and 16 and he threw it for like 5 yards, or 4th and 12? I don't remember.
4th and 8, I think it was.
4th and 8. And he threw it for 4 yards. Like, did we learn anything new? Did you feel like you gained any more information from watching the show about why he messed up that last play? Was it actually on him, like you were saying, Austin? Was it on someone else? Like, what kind of takeaway did you get about that last play? Because I know that was talked about a lot on Vikings Twitter.
Well, I think Cousins said he just didn't want to chuck it up to Jefferson, and then other fans are saying, well, he did it in the Bills game, why not do it here? But I think Cousins just had a guy in his face, and he said, I can't take a sack. So he dumped it off to Hawkinson, hoping he could make a move, make a guy miss, and get a first down. Didn't happen. And I think hindsight's 20/20. If Hawkinson makes a guy miss, you get the first down. Nobody talks about it.
And I think he said that in an interview too. And they were, this was after, closer to like when it happened. But he said that when he threw it to Hawkinson, he's like, we run that play all the time. And he usually gets, more than 8 yards. So. And everyone just stopped talking. Cool.
I'm frozen.
I know.
Can you hear me?
So blame Hawkinson, I guess. Yeah.
We can hear you and see you.
Didn't he just throw out the first pitch at a Twins game?
Hawkinson?
Yeah. Or was that earlier? Pretty sure he did.
Oh.
I just saw it on Instagram. He was in like a Twins jersey throwing out pitches. Wait, when did Bailey Ober start? Did he start yesterday? How do you not know this?
I have not been following the Twins closely recently.
Hey, who started for the Twins yesterday pitching?
Who started pitching yesterday?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Was it Bailey Ober?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe.
Then it was yesterday.
Why? Correa walked it off, I know, yesterday. I don't know who started, but I lost connection because Lindsay called me, and all of a sudden, like, my AirPods went away, and then all of a sudden the video froze, and everything went crazy.
We have a good cut spot after Josh stops talking.
Okay, good. Was I frozen or was I still nodding along? I was trying.
You were just nodding. Everyone, you were just...
Okay, good. I was trying just to nod along, so I'm like, I can't hear a word you're saying. I didn't hear anything Austin said either.
Yeah, we can hear you and see you, but you're back now.
Oh, you could?
Okay. Yeah.
It was frozen on my side, and I figured maybe you could hear me and see me. All right. What should I say, or do you just want to start, Alex? Or
I mean, they pretty much said it all. I don't really have anything to add here.
What'd they say? Where should I pivot to? I guess. What did we just wrap up? I forget.
Just wrap up. Yeah, that was. You said this was the last thing.
We're talking about that 4th and 8 play.
We were talking about the 4th and 8 play.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Wait, but I don't actually. Before you they didn't really cover it that much, unless I'm completely forgetting.
It was just a little segment at the end.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was in there, but it was brief, and that's why I was like, I didn't know if I got any new takeaway from it, but I was curious if you guys did. But all right, so I'll just pivot by saying, and hopefully this year they don't go 4th and 8 and throw for 4 yards to end the season. Hopefully we can have a much more successful playoff run. I do think they're going to make it into the playoffs again. I think we have a solid team. Like we said, KOC has another year under his belt. I think that's a positive. And we've had some surprising offseason stuff really quick we should maybe touch on. Of was a 140 mile an hour wide receiver we got. Jordan Addison, is he going to be out there week 1? Is he going to be in trouble for this? I know he was trying to save his dog, so Josh, you'll appreciate that. But
no, I did read that. But what exactly did happen to his dog? That wasn't in
I
the
don't know.
report. Okay.
No, it just said it was a medical emergency.
He was going to the
of
vet.
course.
Well, he wasn't gambling on any games, so he probably won't miss any time.
That's true. If he misses time for this and some other guys only miss like 2 weeks for like hitting a woman with a gun or something, I mean, that would be just
no. That's
crazy
bad
if he misses
PR.
time for this.
If you're trying to save a dog, I would do the same thing.
I'd go 145, dude. I would have been going faster than that. I think he was in a Lamborghini too, maybe. That's what I read, but I don't know if that's true. But
Well, his
either
dog
way,
was dying. He picked his fastest car. I mean,
hopefully Jordan Addison saw this and learned from it, and we'll move on. And speaking of moving on, Dalvin Cook is gone now, so he's like you said, moved on.
That was
from
watching
him.
it was tough too because you saw the players that aren't on the team anymore. Going back to the dog thing though, is his dog okay? Do we know?
We have no idea.
No
We have
clue.
nothing new to report right now. Should we just say yes and like people can like tag this as fake news, and then if it's not, or say no, we could just say both and we'll edit it. Just kidding. We're gonna assume the dog is fine. If you're going 140, hopefully they figured out how to get the dog there. I feel like he would have came out and said if it wasn't by this point. But all right, so Dalvin Cook's gone. Madison is in. Jordan Addison is in. Thielen is gone. JJ is looking for an extension still, I assume. I mean, is that coming before the start of the season? I thought we would have had that by now. What do you think? What are we looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's looking to become the highest paid receiver in the NFL, and that's a lot of money. So I think it's going to take a little time for the two sides to work it out. But I'm hoping that before we get into the preseason games, we'll have that all wrapped up and just one less headache to worry about, hopefully.
Yeah, I think they'll do whatever they need to keep JJ.
Did I see something, or maybe you mentioned to me, Alex, something about how he wasn't in the photos for the new retro jerseys, and there was some question marks surrounding that of whether he's going to show up for training camp or if he's having some kind of dispute about trademark. I don't know what it is, but you think there's anything there, or are we reading into it too far?
I'm really hoping that it's just fans reading into it too far. But then again, if something doesn't work out, I could totally see why the Vikings wouldn't want to have him in all their New Jersey promotional material. But I think we should talk about those jerseys because they are awesome. I've loved almost all of the new jerseys from the teams this year, especially the Seahawks. Oh my, those are beautiful. But the Vikings ones are awesome. I think they did a great job of showing the old traditions while keeping that new kind of look to it. I'm super excited about it. What do you guys think?
Well, I think JJ not showing up in the jerseys it was just the players that are in town in Minnesota that saw the jerseys. I mean, you saw Cousins like CJ Ham and those guys trying on the jerseys, but you didn't see a lot of the other guys. So I think fans are just reading into it a little bit too much.
What, they don't have AI that can make it look like JJ's in that jersey and just put him out there? I feel like I could do that right now in Photoshop generative fill. No, I'm just kidding. But that's a good point. That's probably what it was. It's just hey, they're right here. Let's have them put it on here. But what do you think, Josh? Anything else that you are expecting, big moves that are coming? Anything you guys got? Off-season moves coming. Austin, Alex, what are we missing? What's the next podcast going to be about before the start of the season?
Hopefully no injuries in like preseason and training camp.
That's true.
Yeah, I feel like right now we're pretty close to the roster we're going to see for opening day. I don't think there's any more massive moves we make, but with the running back landscape the way it is right now, who knows? Maybe we get Cook back on a cheap deal if he doesn't find a team. There's still a lot of amazing running backs on the free agency market. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that all shakes out. But I think the next podcast is just maybe preseason games, some training camp news. I think we're looking at the team for the 2024 season as is right now, though.
I think what every fan's thinking about is the defense. Everyone's probably not too worried about the offense, but you got a lot of young guys on defense. You got a new coordinator. You lost Darius Smith. Danielle Hunter may or may not sign or get traded. And then you have, a lot of corners that left. So I think that's the big question mark in everyone's mind. And you really won't know until game one.
Perfect.
Well, it can't get much worse than last year.
Not on the defensive side, that's for sure.
No.
Bottom of the league, bottom of the barrel. All right, we're going to end it with one question. All I want is a yes or a no from each of you. And it was the question I asked off the top of the show. Do you or do you not love Kirk Cousins more today than before the show quarterback came out? Josh, yes or no?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Austin?
Yes.
All right, we got 4 yeses. I'm a yes as well. And I hope everybody else gets a chance to watch Quarterback if they haven't seen it yet on Netflix. Not sponsored, but should be Netflix. You can call us. You know where we're at. But anyway, we need you guys to please subscribe. That's what helps us because we don't have Netflix as a sponsor. Subscribe to Hot Dish Sports. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. We're out there. Give us a follow. We appreciate it. And as always, Skol Vikes.
Skol Vikes.